One vision. That's where every great journey begins, not with a detailed map, not with endless resources, not even with the perfect plan. It begins with a vision. One clear picture of a future that does not yet exist, but could. A picture that pulls us forward when everything else tries to hold us back. The world has always been changed not by those who had the most resources, but by those who had the clearest vision. Resources can run out. Plans can fail. People can doubt. But when you have a vision, it becomes the anchor in the storm. It becomes the compass in the wilderness. It becomes the light that refuses to go out no matter how dark the night gets. Think about the moments in history when human beings achieved the impossible. Landing on the moon, ending apartheid, building nations from the ground up. In each of these, there wasn't certainty at the beginning. There wasn't proof that it could be done. There wasn't a guarantee of success. What they had before the resources, before the strategies, was a vision. A bold declaration of what could be. And that vision rallied people. It gave them direction. It gave them meaning. The mistake many of us make is that we confuse vision with goals. Goals are milestones. Goals are checkpoints along the way. But vision is bigger. Vision is not about the next step. It's about the destination we are walking toward. Goals can change. They can be adjusted, upgraded, or even replaced. But vision must remain constant. Without vision, goals are just numbers on paper. With vision, goals become steps on the path to transformation. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt pulled by something greater than yourself? Not pushed by pressure, not dragged by deadlines, but pulled forward by the clarity of knowing why you're doing what you're doing. That's the power of vision. It is not about what you do it. Without vision, life becomes a series of random actions. We work hard, but we feel empty. We achieve, but we feel lost. We run faster and faster, but we don't know where the finish line is. Vision solves that. It gives meaning to effort. It gives purpose to struggle. It transforms obstacles into lessons and failures into stepping stones. But here's the challenge. Vision is often invisible at first. It lives in the mind, in the heart, long before it takes shape in the real world. And because it's invisible, people will question it. They'll doubt it. They'll laugh at it. They'll call it unrealistic. They'll say, be practical. They'll remind you of everything that could go wrong. And if your vision is truly bold, they'll even call it impossible. That's the test of vision. It's meant to look impossible at the beginning. If everyone already believes it's possible, it's not a vision. It's just a plan. Vision requires courage. It requires the willingness to be misunderstood for years. It requires the patience to hold on to something even when no one else can see it. The people who have changed the world weren't the ones with the loudest voices. They were the ones with the clearest vision. They didn't need to convince everyone right away. They just needed to hold on long enough for others to eventually see what they saw. But vision is not a fantasy. It's not about daydreaming without responsibility. Vision must be grounded in belief and carried by discipline. It's one thing to say, this is where we want to go. It's another thing to live every single day in alignment with that picture of the future. Vision without discipline is just a wish. Vision with discipline is transformation. When you commit to one vision, everything else becomes easier. Not because life itself becomes easier, but because decision-making does. Every choice has a filter. Every action has a test. If it serves the vision, we do it. If it distracts from the vision, we don't. It's that simple. Clarity eliminates confusion. One vision removes the noise. This is why one vision is more powerful than 1,000 ideas. Ideas are everywhere. Every meeting room, every coffee shop, every late night conversation is full of ideas. But vision is rare. Vision demands focus. Vision demands saying no again and again and again. It demands sacrifice. And that's why so few people choose it. Because one vision means letting go of many other options. But without that focus, nothing great is ever built. There is a story of two workers laying bricks. Someone asked the first one, "What are you doing?" He replied, "I'm laying bricks." The same question was asked to the second worker, and he answered, "I'm building a cathedral." Both were doing the same task, but only one had vision. The first was working a job. The second was fulfilling a calling. That is the difference vision makes. It transforms ordinary work into extraordinary purpose. Vision doesn't just change the future, it changes the present. It changes how we show up today. Because when you know where you're going, every small effort feels meaningful. You're not just working, you're building. You're not just surviving, you're moving. You're not just existing, you're creating. Now imagine a group of people united by one vision. Imagine the energy, the trust, the momentum. Imagine what happens when every individual decision is aligned with the same destination. That is where real transformation begins, not in one person's vision, but in the collective adoption of that vision. That is how revolutions are born. That is how companies reinvent themselves. That is how nations rise. But vision is fragile if it isn't protected. It must be communicated again and again. It must be repeated until it becomes second nature. People don't just remember vision because it was said once in a powerful speech. They remember it because it is lived out daily. They remember it because they see it in action. They remember it because every decision, every choice, every action reflects it. This is why leaders must carry vision with consistency. Because vision that changes every week isn't vision, it's confusion. People don't follow uncertain leaders, they follow clarity, they follow conviction. And conviction comes not from knowing all the answers, but from believing deeply in one. So when we say one vision, 10 years, total transformation, the first piece is the vision itself. Without it, the 10 years don't matter. Without it, the transformation never happens. One vision is the seed from which everything else grows. It's the story we tell ourselves and others. It's the North Star that guides us. It's the reason we get up every morning and keep going even when we don't feel like it. Think about your own life. What is the vision you are serving? Not your goals for this year, not your to-do list for today, but the bigger picture, the reason you exist, the reason you wake up, the reason you do what you do. If you don't have that yet, the question is not, how fast can I move? But where am I going? Because speed without direction is wasted energy. A vision is not something you invent. It's something you uncover. It's already within you. It's the alignment of your values, your strengths, and the difference you want to make. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it shouts, but it is always there waiting to be discovered. The people who change the world are not the ones who say what's realistic. They are the ones who ask what's worth it. Vision is not about being realistic. It's about being meaningful, because reality changes. What's impossible today can become normal tomorrow. But meaning lasts, meaning inspires. Meaning pulls us forward when logic tells us to stop. One vision is powerful enough to change 10 years. One vision is powerful enough to transform lives, communities, and nations. One vision is powerful enough to outlast failure, rejection, and doubt. One vision, when held with courage and lived with discipline, becomes unstoppable. So the question we must ask ourselves is simple: what is our vision? And are we willing to hold on to it, protect it, and live it, even when no one else believes yet? Because history shows us that transformation doesn't begin with everyone believing. It begins with one person, one team, one group, holding one vision. And when that vision is clear, 10 years is not too long. 10 years is exactly what it takes. 10 years. It sounds like a long time, doesn't it? In a world obsessed with speed, where we measure progress in hours, days, or months, a decade feels like forever. We live in a culture of immediacy, fast food, overnight shipping, instant downloads. We want results quickly, and when they don't come, we start to question whether we're on the right path. But here's the truth: nothing truly meaningful, nothing truly transformational happens overnight. It takes time, it takes patience. And above all, it takes discipline sustained over years. Discipline is the bridge between vision and transformation. Vision shows us where we want to go, but discipline is the daily practice of moving in that direction step by step, day by day, year after year. Anyone can be motivated for a week. Anyone can stay focused for a month. But discipline over 10 years, that is rare. And that rarity is what makes transformation so extraordinary. Think about a tree. You plant a seed today, and tomorrow nothing looks different. A week passes, and you might see a small sprout. A year later, it's still fragile. But give it 10 years, and that seed becomes shade. It becomes shelter. It becomes something strong, rooted, and undeniable. The tree didn't grow in a rush. It grew through discipline, sunlight, water, soil, season after season. That's how transformation works: slow, steady, disciplined. The problem is we confuse activity with progress. We think that because we are busy, we are moving forward. But business is not the same as growth. Growth is intentional. Discipline is intentional. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things consistently. Discipline isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. A single burst of effort won't transform a life, a company, or a nation. 10 years of sustained discipline will. And let's be honest, discipline isn't glamorous. It doesn't always look exciting. It's not flashy. It's the small, often invisible choices made day after day: waking up when you don't feel like it, saying no to distractions that tempt you, choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. It's repeating the fundamentals until they become second nature. People won't applaud your discipline in the beginning. They may not even notice it. But give it 10 years and the results will be impossible to ignore. Here's the paradox: discipline feels slow in the moment, but fast in hindsight. When you look back after a decade, you'll realize how far you've come. But if you give up too early, you never see that transformation. Most people quit not because the vision was wrong, but because they lacked the discipline to see it through. They wanted the fruit without planting the tree. They wanted the reward without enduring the process. Think about athletes. A gold medal is won in a moment, but it's earned in 10 years of discipline. Early mornings, grueling practices, strict routines, most of which no one ever sees. Think about musicians. A standing ovation in a concert hall is earned through a decade of practice in small rooms where no one claps. Think about businesses. A breakthrough product that seems like an overnight success usually has a story of 10 years of testing, failing, adjusting, and building behind it. What looks like sudden transformation is actually long-term discipline finally becoming visible. The question is, are we willing to commit to the long game? Are we willing to do the work today tomorrow, the next day, knowing the results may not show up for years. That is the true test of vision. Anyone can dream, but only those willing to discipline themselves for 10 years see the dream become real. Discipline is not punishment. It's not about restricting life. Discipline is freedom, because when you practice discipline, you are no longer at the mercy of impulse, distraction, or pressure. You are guided by principle, by clarity, by vision. Discipline gives you the freedom to say yes to what matters most, and the courage to say no to what doesn't. Over 10 years, discipline also teaches us humility, because in that span of time, there will be setbacks. There will be moments when you fall short, when you fail, when you lose direction. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about returning again and again to the path, no matter how many times you stumble. Transformation doesn't demand that you never fall. It demands that you always get back up. But why 10 years? Why not 2 or 5? Because 10 years is long enough to reveal who is serious. It separates the committed from the curious. 2 years can be luck. 5 years can be momentum. 10 years is discipline. 10 years proves that you didn't just get caught up in the excitement of a moment. You made a promise and kept it. 10 years reshapes habits, reshapes character, and reshapes identity. You're not the same person at the end of that decade. You've grown into someone else, someone capable of the transformation you envisioned. And here's something we often forget. The world around us changes in 10 years too. Technology changes, culture changes, circumstances change. Discipline allows us to adapt without losing our direction. Without discipline, change knocks us off course. With discipline, change becomes the wind in our sails, propelling us forward. 10 years of discipline is not about rigidly doing the same thing over and over. It's about staying true to the vision while adjusting to the reality. We live in a generation that underestimates what can be done in 10 years and overestimates what can be done in 1. We chase shortcuts, hacks, and quick fixes. But the truth is, nothing sustainable comes quickly. Discipline is what sustains. It's what allows growth to last, to stick, to endure. There is a Japanese concept called kaizen, which means continuous improvement. It's the practice of small, consistent changes that over time produce extraordinary results. That's the heart of discipline. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need to transform in one dramatic leap. You just need to keep improving consistently for 10 years. At first, the change feels invisible. But over a decade, it becomes undeniable. So when we talk about 10 years of discipline, we're not talking about surviving 10 years. We're talking about intentionally shaping 10 years. We're talking about choosing again and again to align with the vision, to refine our habits, to stay on course. That discipline is not just about what we accomplish, it's about who we become. 10 years of discipline doesn't just build results, it builds character. It builds resilience. It builds a kind of strength that shortcuts can never produce. And here's the most powerful part discipline compounds. Like interest in a bank account, small acts of discipline grow into extraordinary results over time. Missing one day of practice doesn't seem like a big deal, but missing one day every week for 10 years adds up to an entirely different outcome. Conversely, choosing to show up every single day, even when it doesn't feel significant, adds up too. At the end of 10 years, the disciplined path and the undisciplined path are worlds apart. When people look at transformation, they often admire the results but overlook the discipline behind them. They see the final product, but not the process. They see the glory, but not the grind. But the ones who live through it know the truth transformation is nothing more than 10 years of small disciplined choices lived out consistently. And so the invitation is this: commit not just to the vision, but to the discipline that sustains it. Don't measure success by what happens in the first year. Don't be discouraged by what hasn't appeared in 5 years. Keep going. Keep showing up. Because at year 10, the transformation will be undeniable. One vision gives us direction. 10 years of discipline gives us movement. And together, they create total transformation. Transformation is never the work of one person alone. We love the story of the lone genius, the solitary leader, the individual who carries the world on their shoulders. It makes for good headlines and inspiring myths. But if you look closely at any lasting transformation in history, you'll find something deeper, something more powerful. You'll find a collective. You'll find a group of people who believed in something together, who worked together, who sacrificed together. Transformation happens when one person can start a vision. One person can ignite a spark, but a single spark does not create a fire. It needs oxygen, it needs fuel, it needs others to gather around it. That is the story of every great movement, every great revolution, every great transformation. It begins with one, but it survives because of many. The danger of believing in the myth of the individual is that it blinds us to the power of community. It convinces us that we must carry the burden alone, that if we don't have all the answers, we're failing. But the truth is, no one has all the answers. No one has all the skills. No one has all the resources. Transformation requires the collective strength of diverse people, each bringing their own gifts, their own perspectives, their own courage. Think about a symphony. One violin on its own may play beautifully, but it cannot carry the weight of an entire orchestra. A symphony is powerful not because of one instrument, but because of the harmony between many. Transformation works the same way. It is not about one voice shouting louder than the rest, but about many voices uniting into one song. The beauty of collective transformation is that it magnifies what's possible. Alone, we can achieve a little. Together, we can achieve what seems impossible. Alone, we can move quickly. Together, we can go further. A single person can run fast, but only a team can endure the marathon. And a decade of transformation is not a sprint, it is a marathon. Without the collective, the vision dies along the way. With the collective, the vision endures. But here's where the challenge comes in. Working together is not always easy. Collaboration requires humility. It requires us to admit that we don't have all the answers. It requires us to trust others, to listen to perspectives we may not agree with, and to share credit when success comes. That's difficult in a world where ego often gets in the way, where people want recognition more than results. But if we want true transformation, we must choose trust over ego, collaboration over competition, and unity over division. In 10 years, the greatest obstacles will not just be external. Yes, there will be setbacks, challenges, and resistance from the outside world, but the greatest test will be internal. Can we stay united? Can we continue to believe in each other when pressure rises? Can we hold the vision together when circumstances tempt us to turn against one another? History teaches us that movements collapse not because the vision was wrong, but because the people within them lost trust in each other. Trust is the foundation of any collective effort. Without it, collaboration turns into conflict. With it, collaboration turns into power. Trust is built slowly, consistently through honesty, integrity, and keeping our word. Over 10 years, trust is tested again and again. And if we protect it, if we nurture it, it becomes unbreakable. Think about a rowing team. Every individual has strength. But if even one person is out of rhythm, the boat slows down. The boat doesn't move because of individual power. It moves because of collective rhythm. Transformation works the same way. It's not about how strong each of us is alone. It's about how well we move together. The truth is, collective transformation also gives us resilience. When one person falls, the group can carry them. When one person loses hope, the others can remind them of the vision. When one person is weak, the strength of the community fills the gap. Alone, a setback can end us. Together, setbacks become detours, not dead ends. That is why we cannot transform alone, because none of us are strong all the time. But together, we can always find enough strength. And here is the paradox: when we focus on the collective, the individual also grows. Transformation is not about losing yourself in the crowd. It's about discovering your fullest self within a community. It's about realizing that your gifts are amplified when they serve something bigger than just you. The irony of contribution is that when you give yourself away to a vision, you discover more of who you truly are. A powerful question to ask is this: what story do we want to tell 10 years from now? Do we want to say, I built something alone? Or do we want to say, we built something together? Which story lasts longer? Which story carries more weight? Which story inspires the next generation? It is never the story of one, it is always the story of many. When we make transformation collective, it also creates accountability. Alone, it's easy to quit. It's easy to justify giving up. But when we are part of a group, when others are counting on us, when our contribution matters to the whole, quitting is no longer just about us. We feel responsible not only for ourselves, but for each other. That shared accountability keeps us disciplined, keeps us consistent, keeps us moving. Over 10 years, there will be countless moments when the vision feels too heavy. That's inevitable. But in those moments, the collective makes the difference. Imagine carrying a heavy stone up a hill. Alone, the weight will crush you. Together, the same stone can be carried with ease. Transformation requires lifting heavy stones. That's why we need each other. Even science shows us this truth. A single ant can carry little on its own, but an ant colony can build structures that defy imagination. A single bee cannot produce much honey, but a hive produces abundance. Nature itself teaches us transformation is not about the individual, it is about the collective. The challenge for us is to build a culture where the collective matters more than the individual spotlight. Where we measure success not by what I achieved, but by what we became, where credit is shared, where victories are celebrated together, where setbacks are carried together. Because transformation is not about me or you, it is about us. When we commit to one vision for 10 years, we are not just committing to discipline as individuals, we're committing to discipline as a collective. We are choosing to trust, to sacrifice, to endure together. That is where strength comes from. That is why transformation lasts. And so the question becomes, are we willing to be part of something bigger than ourselves? Are we willing to give up a little recognition so that the vision can live? Are we willing to choose unity when division feels easier? Because in the end, the future belongs not to the one who stands alone, but to the many who stand together. One vision gives us direction. 10 years of discipline gives us momentum. But collective effort is what gives us strength. It is what sustains the journey. It is what ensures that when transformation comes, it doesn't vanish with one individual's departure, but endures because the collective carries it forward. Transformation is not individual, it is collective. And that is the only way it becomes total. Success is a tricky word. Everyone wants it, everyone chases it, but very few stop to ask what it really means. The challenge is that success is not a fixed point. It's not something we can define once and for all and then spend our lives trying to reach. Success changes, it evolves, it matures. What looks like success in the first year of a journey will look very different in the 10th year. And if we cling to the old definition while the journey moves forward, we risk missing the deeper transformation. At the beginning of any bold vision, success often looks like survival. Just making it through the day, just keeping the lights on, just convincing one person to believe. In those early years, success is fragile, almost invisible. It's not about trophies or headlines. It's about momentum. It's about proving first to ourselves and then to others that the vision is alive and worth pursuing. But as time passes, something shifts. The same definition of success that motivated us in the beginning no longer satisfies. The milestones that once felt impossible become routine. What was once a finish line becomes a starting point for something greater. And that's the beautiful thing about a long journey. It forces us to redefine success again and again at each stage of growth. Think about a child learning to walk. In the beginning, success is just standing without falling. Then it becomes taking one step, then two, then walking across the room. And eventually walking is no longer success at all. It becomes normal. The definition of success grows with the child. And so it is with us. What feels like an achievement in the first year must evolve if we are to keep growing. Otherwise, we risk mistaking comfort for progress. The danger is that too often we hold on to outdated definitions of success. We set a goal, we achieve it, and then we keep chasing it long after it has lost its meaning. We celebrate numbers, profits, or positions without asking whether they still serve the vision. We get addicted to external recognition, applause, or validation, forgetting that those were never the real markers of transformation. When success becomes only about what we can measure on a spreadsheet, we risk losing sight of what actually matters. Redefining success requires courage. It means asking uncomfortable questions. What does success mean now? Is it growth at all costs, or is it impact? Is it winning every race, or is it running the right race? Is it about being the best of the world, or being the best for the world? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because without them, success becomes shallow. With them, success becomes meaningful. Over 10 years, we must learn to celebrate different kinds of success. In the early years, success may be about endurance. In the middle years, it may be about expansion. In the later years, it may be about legacy. Each stage requires a new definition because each stage asks us to grow not just in what we do, but in who we are. Transformation is not about chasing the same finish line for a decade. It's about allowing the definition of success to deepen and expand along the way. There is a subtle but important shift that happens as the journey unfolds at first. Success is about what we achieve. Later, success becomes about who we become. That's the real transformation. The numbers, the awards, the recognition, those may come and go. But the character we build, the trust we cultivate, the difference we make in the lives of others, those last. True success is not measured in what we accumulate, but in what we contribute. If you look at people who have reached what the world calls the top, you'll notice something. Many of them, after years of chasing external success, eventually redefine it for themselves. They realize that money, fame, or status were never enough. They start to ask deeper questions. Did I make an impact? Did I leave something behind that will outlive me? Did I grow into someone worth remembering? That's because success is not about arrival, it's about evolution. Along the way, we must also recognize that success doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes success looks like failing forward. Sometimes it looks like taking a risk and learning from the outcome, even if the outcome wasn't what we hoped for. Sometimes success is hidden in setbacks because those setbacks shape us in ways that victories never could. If we only celebrate the obvious wins, we miss the deeper growth. Redefining success means learning to see value in the process, not just the result. Another shift happens when success stops being only about us. At the beginning of the journey, it's natural to think in terms of my success or our success. But as the vision grows, so does our responsibility. True transformation requires us to expand our definition of success beyond personal gain. It requires us to ask, how are we making life better for others? How are we serving something larger than ourselves? When success becomes collective, it becomes sustainable. When it remains selfish, it eventually collapses. And here's the paradox: the more we focus on collective success, the more fulfilling our individual success becomes. Because contribution gives meaning. Impact gives joy. Success is sweetest not when we achieve it alone, but when we share it with others. 10 years of transformation is not just about building something for ourselves. It's about building something that outlives us, something that leaves a mark. But redefining success also requires patience, because there will be years when external markers seem absent. There will be years when the world doesn't applaud, when progress feels invisible, when no one notices the sacrifices being made. In those seasons, we must learn to redefine success as persistence. Success may not look like victory in the eyes of others, but it looks like faithfulness in the eyes of the vision. Some of the most important years of transformation are the quiet ones, the ones where success looks like simply not giving up. So, what does this mean for us over 10 years? It means we must hold our vision tightly, but hold our definition of success loosely. The vision remains the North Star, but the milestones evolve. What we celebrate in year 1 should not be the same as what we celebrate in year 5 or year 10. Each stage demands new questions, new metrics, new meaning. Success is not a static destination, it is a dynamic journey. If we are wise, we will not wait 10 years to redefine success. We will do it continually. We will pause along the way and ask what matters most now. What is worth celebrating now? What does success mean to us at this stage? And by asking these questions, we avoid the trap of chasing shadows. We keep our eyes on what truly matters. And maybe the greatest redefinition of all is this: success is not about reaching the destination. Success is about becoming the kind of people who are worthy of the transformation we seek. It's about character, it's about resilience, it's about integrity. Because at the end of 10 years, the real achievement is not just what we built, it's who we became in the process. When we look back after a decade, the numbers may fade, the applause may fade, the headlines may fade. But what will remain is the story of our growth, the trust we built, the lives we touched, the legacy we left behind. That is true success. That is the kind of success worth redefining again and again, until it shapes not just what we do, but who we are. And so, as we walk this journey of vision, discipline, and collective effort, we must remember success is not fixed. It is fluid, it is alive. And if we have the courage to redefine it along the way, we will discover that success is not something we chase, it is something we create. 10 years sounds like a long time. It feels almost impossible to imagine the version of ourselves we will become a decade from now, the challenges we will have faced, the victories we will have celebrated. But the truth is, 10 years is not the end. 10 years is not the finish line. 10 years is only the foundation. Because true transformation does not end with us. It begins with us. The ultimate test of transformation is not what we achieve in 10 years, but what continues to grow long after those 10 years are gone. That is legacy. Legacy is not about monuments or names etched in stone. Legacy is not about recognition, fame, or applause. Legacy is the ripple effect of our choices, our discipline, our vision. It is the impact we leave on others, the example we set, the seeds we plant that continue to grow long after we are no longer here to water them. Legacy is not measured in what people remember about us, but in what continues because of us. The temptation is to see transformation as a personal story. My vision, my journey, my success. But legacy shifts the perspective. Legacy asks, what will endure when I am gone? What will continue to shape lives even when I'm no longer present? If transformation ends when the leader steps aside, it was never transformation. It was only achievement. True transformation lasts. It sustains. It multiplies. Think about a teacher. The lessons they teach in one classroom may seem small in the moment, but those lessons ripple outward as students carry them into their lives, their families, their communities. A single teacher's influence can shape generations. That is legacy. It's not about what the teacher achieves personally, it's about what they awaken in others. The same is true of every leader, every visionary, every person who dares to commit to something bigger than themselves. Legacy is not built in one grand gesture. It is built through years of consistency. It is built in the moments when no one is watching. It is built in the values we choose, the standards we uphold, the principles we refuse to compromise. When people see us live out those values, not for days or months, but for decades, they begin to trust that this is not just an idea, it's a way of life. That trust becomes part of our legacy. Over 10 years, we may change ourselves, but beyond 10 years, we change the world around us. Because transformation that stops with us dies with us. Transformation that is passed on lives forever. That is why legacy must always be the goal. Without legacy, transformation is temporary. With legacy, transformation is eternal. But legacy is not something we control. We cannot dictate what people will say about us or how history will remember us. Legacy is something we influence through the way we live, but it is ultimately carried forward by others. That is why building legacy requires investing in people. It requires us to lift others, teach others, empower others. It requires us to see beyond our own success and to prepare those who will come after us. If we spend 10 years building only for ourselves, we may succeed, but the success will end with us. If we spend 10 years building for others, the success will outlive us. Legacy asks us to think generationally, to ask not, what can I gain in this decade? But what can I give that will last beyond this decade? It is a shift from ownership to stewardship, from taking to giving, from consuming to creating. There is a story of people who plant trees knowing they will never sit in the shade of those trees. That is legacy. It is the willingness to contribute to a future we may never personally experience. It is the belief that our role is not only to build something for ourselves, but to make the path smoother for those who come after us. Legacy is about the long game, not 10 years, but 50, 100, even beyond our lifetime. The paradox is that legacy is never about chasing legacy. The people who build the most enduring legacies are not the ones obsessed with being remembered. They are the ones obsessed with serving something greater than themselves. Legacy is not about being known. It's about making a difference. And when the difference is real, the legacy takes care of itself. We often overestimate what we can do in a single year, but we underestimate what can happen in 10. And even more, we underestimate what can ripple out in the decades beyond. 10 years of vision and discipline can change a company, a community, a nation. But legacy means that change doesn't stop when the decade ends. It keeps going because it has been embedded into the culture, the people, the very DNA of the system. So the question is, what kind of legacy are we building, not in theory, but in practice? Are we investing in people or only in projects? Are we building trust or only chasing numbers? Are we creating a culture that lasts, or are we relying on personal charisma that fades when we leave? Because legacy is not about what happens while we're here, it's about what happens after we're gone. Legacy also forces us to think differently about success. Success asks, what can I achieve? Legacy asks, what can I leave behind? Success asks, how far can I go? Legacy asks, how far will others go because of me? Success is measured in results. Legacy is measured in impact. Success lasts a moment. Legacy lasts generations. And here's the truth, every one of us leaves a legacy whether we intend to or not. The question is not whether we leave one, but what kind of legacy we leave. Some leave legacies of fear, mistrust, or selfishness. Others leave legacies of hope, courage, and possibility. Every decision, every action, every word contributes to that story. Over 10 years, those decisions accumulate. Beyond 10 years, they define how we are remembered. Legacy is not about perfection. We don't need to get everything right. We don't need to be flawless. Legacy is about authenticity. It's about being consistent in who we are and what we stand for. People don't remember us for being perfect. They remember us for being real, for being human, for being courageous enough to live out our values when it mattered most. The beauty of legacy is that it multiplies. The people we impact will go on to impact others, who will impact others, and so on. A single act of courage, a single decision to live with integrity, a single commitment to a vision can set off a chain reaction that outlives us by centuries. That is the power of legacy. And maybe this is the greatest challenge of all, to think beyond ourselves, to think beyond 10 years, to think not just about what we will achieve, but about what we will enable others to achieve. To live not for applause today, but for transformation tomorrow. To give more than we take, to build more than we consume, to serve more than we demand. That is how legacies are born. One vision, 10 years. Total transformation. And beyond those 10 years legacy, that is the arc of a life, of a movement, of a generation. It starts with clarity, it continues with discipline, it strengthens with collective effort, it matures with redefined success, and it lives forever in legacy. The question is not whether the 10 years will change us, they will. The question is whether the 10 years will change others through us. Because if the transformation stops with us, it ends. But if it multiplies beyond us, it lives. That is the difference between achievement and legacy. And so, as we think about our vision, our discipline, our collective, our success, we must always hold in our hearts the bigger question. What will outlive us? What will people continue to carry because of the work we did, the values we lived, the vision we believed in? Because in the end, the true measure of transformation is not 10 years of progress. It is a legacy that outlasts time itself.